A famous CEO once said, I can't recall who, but you interview for the job you want, not for the job that you're trying to get. And I gotta tell you, that's pretty sound advice. And someone should come in Shador Sanders' circle and begin telling him this advice. Because this kid, for the last, what, 6 months, 9 months, has been given nothing but terrible advice. Last week, upon finding out that Cleveland was going to insert Dylan Gabriel as a starter and put Joe Flacco as the backup, Shador Sanders gave an interview where he completely mimed the interview. That's right, mimed like this. For those only listening, I gave an example of miming. There you go. This kid, now, I was never a big fan of his in college. I think he's too slow to throw the football. He may have a cannon for an arm, but I honestly don't think that he has the uh the package to be able to have the time to throw the ball downfield, which is Caleb Williams' problem, which is why he's always dinking and dunking while his during this time with Chicago. But Shador Sanders, if you lack the ability or you lack in tools, that's one thing. If you lack in character and in bad decision making and in bad uh, advice and surrounding yourselves with people who are no good for your game other than for their own personal clout, the fact that they know you, you need to rid yourself of these people immediately. I don't care if you're in sports, I don't care if you're in finance, I don't care if you're a used car salesman or a stay-at-home mom. If you surround yourself with the wrong type of people, you are going to get wrong advice time and time and time again. Yes. Was it a little funny that he mimed the questions? Absolutely. Was it incredibly showing that he is still so immature and unwilling to work at growing to be the type of leader that an NFL quarterback needs to be in order to sustain it? Yes, absolutely. So while, yes, it's not, he's still young and it's not completely his fault, at some point you have to be the adult in the room. And you're going to have to put on the suit and tie and understand I'm not trying to be the mechanic at Jiffy Lube. I'm trying to be the CEO of Jiffy Lube. Guys, we are back again for a Friday Junior edition of Box Scores and Bourbon. Fly that W.
Look at the box scores.
Box scores.
We check each other's box scores and scores online.
Baseball. Box scores.
Football, baseball, basketball, soccer, hockey.
Box Scores and Bourbon.
Welcome
Right.
back. Welcome back, JB.
Welcome back.
Yeah, I saw the little snippets of the Shador Sanders interview, and they were asking him about how he felt being still the third string quarterback after Joe Flacco got benched. I mean, it's fitting that he's still the third string quarterback, considering the quarterback is supposed to be the leader of the offense and really the leader of an organization. And he's acting like this in response to not getting the opportunity to start. It shows why he's still the third stringer, which is in part because of the fact that there's really some weird offseason thing where Shador Sanders possibly asked for his son to be drafted, and that's the only reason he's on the team right now. But yeah, it was very telling.
Yeah, it's very telling that he is just willing to still give in to this really bad advice, and it's sad too because there's only 32 of these positions in the NFL, and I understand it, when your dad is Deion Sanders, when he's prime time, you've been raised by this man, so you begin to take your P's and Q's from him, and you're absolutely going to sit there and probably not question the type of people that you're surrounding yourself with. And that's a huge problem because at some point Shador's going to have to make a decision as to what type of man does he want to be perceived as. Does he
Yep.
want to be perceived as someone who's just a clown show for the people around him, or as his own man? And not to say that if he gets rid of these guys and he begins to straighten up, he'll be a starting NFL quarterback. Probably not. But at some point, he's going to have to straighten up because starting NFL quarterback isn't all there is. Get married, having kids, having a stable job, being a serious person. And right
Mhm.
now, he's an unserious person who
Yeah, he
takes
is.
himself too seriously, and he needs to be a serious person who doesn't take himself too seriously.
Yep.
And the sooner that, and this is great life advice for any young man, be a serious person. Don't take yourself too seriously. You look at Shador, he's an unserious person who takes himself too seriously, and it's a bad combo.
Yeah, it's not working out for him. We actually started on the wrong foot today, JB, since we still have our glasses right here ready to be cheers. So, cheers, everyone. Cheers
Cheers,
to, what
bud.
are we cheersing? We're cheersing to the MLB postseason, which is
Yes.
been hectic already, and being into a quarter of the NFL season.
Yes.
You know what? I think to wrap up this Sanders conversation, I think this might have something to do with the fact that when Deion Sanders was in the league, players really were allowed to be divas and be vocal, and like teams wouldn't really squash it. Like they cherished the attention that they were bringing because at the end of the day, it was bring attention to their organizations. I have a feeling he might be telling if maybe Deion Sanders isn't telling his son this, but if Shador is seeing that that's how Deion was successful in his pro career, that maybe he has to do that type of same like diva personality, like the attention grabbing personality. And
Yeah.
this age and this era of NFL is completely opposite of that, where players that have voices are considered nuances in the organization and distractions from what they're trying to do. Completely different from the time that Deion Sanders was playing.
Yeah. Yeah, but the difference is Dion has a certain type of, you know, uh, just talent about him, and
Yeah.
he is absolutely. I mean, Deion Sanders is just a different individual, and
Mm-hmm.
that stuff's not genetic. You don't just inherit that. If that was the case, then Jackson Holiday would be hitting bombs like now, like his dad Matt. But
Yeah.
it's like high average and everything. But it's just it doesn't work that way, and
Mhm.
the problem with you growing up, and Nick Wright said this, and you know what? I will uh uh I don't particularly agree with Nick Wright. I agree with Nick Wright as often as Derry agrees with me. Not very often. So but he said something I thought was a little insightful. He said that Shador's probably dealt with a famous father and growing up with a famous father a lot better than most famous kids have. But that doesn't change the fact that he's trying so hard to get out of his dad's shadow by acting like his dad.
Yeah.
Like I don't understand how you're going to escape the shade of the tree by walking around to the other side of the tree. That's not how you escape the shade. You run away from the tree. You run away from where the shadows are.
Yep.
And Shador just seems completely inept or unwilling to separate himself from that. And
Mm-hmm.
it's sad because this kid has talent. I mean, he's got talent. I mean, that's one of the reasons why an NFL team picked him up. But it's one of those things where, justified or not for him being picked up, it's like you're not going to get very far if you continue to do this. You
Yeah.
got to stop this. This
Yeah.
is this in the words of Damian Rice, this has got to die.
Yep.
So you can't just continue to play this game where you're going to try to play, jester for the circle of friends that you have. At some point,
Mm-hmm.
you got to be a serious person and go about your business and tell those other guys, zip it,
Yep.
zip your lid. I'm the one here, not you. Go grandstand for someone else.
Exactly. And I think it is it's a little sad. I don't feel bad for him, but it is sad because obviously, like you said, he does have talent. So there's a reason that he's made it to the NFL, regardless of what I just say. There's still an aspect of the talent that is there, but 100%. The more you see him in track, the more you see things that are happening with him. You can see why he fell so much
Yeah.
and why he's not getting the opportunity to be a starter anywhere. It's the personality factor. Nobody wanted to deal with that with a starting quarterback or a backup quarterback at this point. No team wanted that. And if he would just act professional, I truly do think that he would have been an earlier draft pick and possibly been given the opportunity to compete for a starting job. It really is that simple because the talent that he displayed through his college career was there. It was enough for a team to want to take a chance on him, but nobody wants to now because he just keeps digging his hole deeper and deeper.
Yeah. Well, let's before we move on to the NFL slate, let's talk a little college football from last weekend. So uh there were some upsets. Virginia comes to mind, and I don't know if anybody recalls, but I called Florida State to lose to Virginia, and it happened. So please grant me my oracle crown and my robe, and let's unseat Miss Cleo, and put me there. I believe I've earned it. And then also, two teams kind of put some questions to rest. So I want to talk about that Notre Dame game against Arkansas.
Yep.
Notre Dame absolutely cruised to a victory against Heisman hopeful Taylon Green in the Arkansas Razorbacks, and it's that was an absolute thrashing
Mm-hmm.
of a performance, and especially when it happens in Fayetteville. Notre Dame just goes into Arkansas's home, and it says "F your couch." They Charlie Murphy'd that couch. So it was definitely a spectacle to see.
To the point where
Not,
they
not much
fired their
happening.
coach because of it, right?
What's that?
They took such a beating that the Arkansas ended up firing their coach pretty much right after the
Oh
game.
yeah, Sam Pittman's out, and of course the one, the only, the great motorcycle man himself, Bobby Petrino, is the interim head coach for Arkansas, which is just a crazy full circle moment. So yes, but he is now again in the head coach capacity of Arkansas Razorback football. But it was just an absolute shellacking, and but I think the bigger one here, um, aside from Oregon and Penn State, I don't think a lot of people had Penn State winning that. I had Oregon winning that game. I feel like just James Franklin. I mean, his record says it for itself. He's not he's not great in the big moments,
Yeah.
and no one gets their team ready to play like Dan Lanning, and just an absolute a fantastic performance by that Oregon Duck football team. That was a great football game.
Yeah, it was. It was. I came up. Somebody was talking about this statistic, and it was since he's been there in Penn State. Penn State's record against like top 10 teams is like 2-22. Like they never beat top 10 teams. I think I'm remembering that statistic well. Like
Yeah,
it's not for as big of a caliber as we always say Penn State is as for a football school because they are a football school. That is not
yeah,
doesn't cut it to always be in the top tiers of the football realm and then not beat the competition that you're bound to have to face if you want a national championship.
yeah,
I remembered from the recent history that every time they're like in a Saturday Night Light game or like a big marquee game that I rarely
yeah,
see Penn State winning, but I did not think it was like 2-22. I think that's the note. It was like 2-20,
yeah.
2-22, some ridiculous number. It just I'll have to find the stat, but I was surprised it's that bad. And the conversation that I remember hearing from this statistic is okay, if you're a middle of the pack school, you would want a coach like him to be leading your program because he's
Yeah.
such their program is established. They're always competing. They're always ranked. Like they're always at some point ranked in the top 10 or somewhere around the teens. If
Yeah.
you were a middle of the pack school, you'd want a coach like that. If you are an elite school like Michigan, Ohio State, Alabama, those like the marquee schools for the college football, this would get you fired the day after the Oregon game. Once again, losing to a top ranked school would get you fired because in my opinion, he should have been something
I'm
that
going to
could.
disagree with you full stop on that
Whoa,
one.
why? 2 and
Because
20.
one, okay, here's why. If you're going to get rid of a guy like James Franklin, you have to wait till the end of the season. Because if you're going to bring in a guy to replace James Franklin, you gotta be for sure for certain that you are going to bring a guy who can do a better job than James Franklin. So, and yeah, he's had this horrendous record against top 10 teams. It seems like he can't win the big one. All fair, very fair. But the reason why guys like Drew Aller came back is because they love playing for this man. So and look, it only takes one game to break the other way in order for you to have whole hog faith in your coach, which is a
Yeah,
great segue into Alabama, Georgia.
true. This is
Can
actually the same point that I was going to make. Everybody thought the same thing about Alabama when Nick Saban left. You can't just replace Nick Saban, but there's always somebody good that you can find if you're a good school.
Oh there's always an opportunity to bring in a guy, and then why not a guy who coached Michael Penix at Washington? Why not the guy who took Washington to the national championship game? Why
Yeah,
not that guy? And
but
so
I'm saying if it's Penn State, if they were saying, well, who do we replace him with? Who do we replace James Franklin with? There's guys out there. There's good coaches out there.
look, that is a question for another day. The James Franklin's not going anywhere. I'm going to squash
should be.
this right now.
He
James
should be going
Franklin's
somewhere.
not going
He
anywhere.
should be.
Okay. It's hard to beat Oregon as it is. Okay, Oregon is just one of those teams. And yes, would you have liked to have been the 3 seed, beat the 6 seed? Absolutely. But nothing's going to happen to James Franklin. He's not going to go anywhere. If he hasn't been fired yet, he's not going to be fired. Okay, that dude is like Joe Paterno into the role. Okay, he is there for a lifetime, as far as I'm concerned. As long as Penn State's in the mix, he's not leaving anywhere, and he has absolutely done some incredible things at this program, and so I don't think he's going anywhere. But let's get to Alabama. Like Kalen DeBoer,
Mm-hmm.
if it wasn't for Kirby Smart's absolutely just giving into his hubris and not kicking a field goal to tie the football game when he had the opportunity to tie the football game at 24, we might be talking about a different game. Maybe not. But Kalen DeBoer absolutely had his boys ready.
He
The
did.
Tide were ready to play this game. And this is absolutely, I think if you're a Bama fan, has taken the bad taste of the Florida State game out of your mouth. You went into Athens and you took down Georgia, and who was the consensus pick to win the SEC. You took them down. And like
Mm-hmm.
I said last week, I know that they really hadn't played anybody. I get it. And they lost to Florida State, but I can absolutely still see Alabama winning the SEC, and that doesn't change. The only team that I can see maybe overcoming them, maybe, is Ole Miss.
Mm.
Ole Miss. And look, I'm not sold on Texas yet. I'm not, okay? I get Archie or Arch Manning is staring down, UTSA defenders in the end zone. I get it. Okay, great. Yeah, we've all been there. Awesome. Okay. But Ole Miss is absolutely primed to make a run in the SEC. And if you watch that game against LSU, now LSU, look, it was clear from the early on that something's wrong with Garrett Nussmeier, and now I believe now he's out for a few weeks. The last I've heard, he's out for some time.
Uh-huh.
So, and with an injury he sustained in the spring, but there was no zip on that ball. They could get absolutely nothing going on offense, and you can sit there and cry that they're not running the ball enough, but it's like you're not going to get much if there's nothing in the vertical game. So, but Ole Miss is absolutely ready to play. Trinidad Chambliss he came from nowhere. He's like Cam Ward. He just came out of nowhere,
Yep.
and it's just not lighting up the college football scene like Diego Pavia coming from New Mexico State, and now he's at Vanderbilt. Just he coming out of nowhere and lighting up the SEC world and the college football world as it is. So, but congrats to Alabama for taking down Georgia.
Yeah,
That
that
was
was
an
impressive.
absolutely incredible football game. When you have Alabama, Georgia, and Oregon and Penn State on that Saturday night, you could not have it any better than having those two football games cap an incredible just Saturday slate of college football.
Yep.
And like I said last week, and I'll say it again, and I said it since Alabama lost to Florida State. You cannot count Alabama out. Kalen DeBoer, no, he's not Nick Saban, but he's also not Jerry DiNardo. Okay, he's not just some whatever head coach. This is a guy that can absolutely win you football games and knows how to lead a program. He's been there before. He knows how to do it. And don't be surprised if Alabama's still sitting here at the end of the day, holding the bag for the SEC and saying, all right, see you later. I'm off. So congrats to Caleb DeBoer. Congrats to Alabama. It's going to be an incredible season of football. And speaking of which,
I was actually going to ask you. You kind of hinted at it, and I was actually planning on asking you your opinion on the Vanderbilt season so far with their quarterback. There seems to be like a lot of hype behind them. The more I see it, the more I'm thinking it might be overhype behind Vanderbilt. But I wanted to are you tracking? How do you feel about Vanderbilt and how they're playing this year, and what their expectations are for them?
honestly, okay, so if it wasn't for that South Carolina game where they absolutely just obliterated South Carolina, like in their own home,
Yeah.
31-7. Outside of that, it's not an impressive resume. But
No.
what I will say is this team has an incredible offense. This offense is supercharged. It's super powerful. But who's got a great defense? Alabama. So I said at the beginning, I said before the season started, I don't care what Vanderbilt's record is. I don't care, how great Diago Pavia is playing, which he's playing out of his mind right now.
Yep.
But when Vandy visits Tuscaloosa, it's not going to be a football game. It's not even going to be close. I think Alabama wipes the floor with Vanderbilt. And I understand Vanderbilt's everyone's Cinderella. Oh, Vanderbilt's 5-0. Oh, they're going to Tuscaloosa. Alabama has a loss. Yeah, that loss happened an eternity ago. You know who Alabama just beat? Georgia in Athens. You don't think they can handle a Vanderbilt offense coming into Tuscaloosa? Okay, let's just wait and see. All right, let's wait and see that.
Would you give them a little bit more credit if they keep it a close game against Alabama?
I'll give it as much credit as I give my grandma for actually getting out of bed and making it to the bathroom without wetting herself. It's one of those things for if Vanderbilt shows up, if Vanderbilt can show up and put up a game,
if they lose by a field goal,
what's that?
If they lose by a field goal,
they lose by a field goal. Okay, awesome, great. That just shows how powerful that offense is. It shows that I was wrong, but it also shows you're not beating Alabama. You're not beating Alabama 2 years in a row. It's not happening. It's not happening. Year 2 under Kalen DeBoer, Vanderbilt is not beating Alabama. It's not happening. It's not. So, I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to Vanderbilt being a little deflated because then in 2 weeks after that, they're at home playing LSU. So I hope they're a little deflated. I hope they're like, oh, let's nurse our wounds. And, Van Buren and company aren't coming in here and wiping the floor with us.
I think
look.
I think it's going to be the worst storm for Vanderbilt because they're riding so high. They probably think they can beat any team. They think they can square up against any team in the SEC or any conference and win. If Alabama would have lost the Georgia game last week, they would have been the perfect storm for Vanderbilt to upset them because Alabama was going to be deflated if they lost that game. The fact that Alabama beat Georgia in the way that they did, in a close game, like a grindy game, and they're now Alabama's riding their high, I think that's, to me, is the main reason why I don't think Vanderbilt's going to necessarily do too well against Alabama, because Alabama's just going to be riding with such a high of competitiveness and feeling like this like re-energizing factor of, okay, we're Alabama, we're back, and it's not gonna play pretty for Vanderbilt.
Right. Yeah, look, and when I say he, I mean Clark Lee. Clark Lee's done an incredible job at turning this football team around. He's done absolutely just mesmerizing work. He went 2-10, and then 5-7, and then 2-10 again. Of course, 7-6 last year, and then it was their first winning record in ages, and now they're 5-0 right now.
Yep.
And 1-0 in conference play because of the aforementioned South Carolina game. But this is, it's as much as I, have respect for Clark Lee for, doing what he's done. It's not anything where I'm going to sit there and say, okay, yeah, they're 5-0, they're ready. They're ready. You look at that Utah State game,
Mm-hmm.
They gave up 35 points to Utah State at home. So there are holes here. There are vulnerabilities for Kalen DeBoer and company to take, to take advantage of. And and the way Ty Simpson is playing right now, and the way he's connecting with Ryan Williams, and the way this run game is for Alabama, I just see that they have found a rhythm. Alabama's offense has found a rhythm.
Yep.
And with these holes in the Vanderbilt defense, it's going to be it's not hard for me to connect these dots. And if Vanderbilt loses by 3, okay, great. You know what? That's a notch for Kalen DeBoer for beating another top 25 team. And look, another feather in his cap. Fantastic. You strike while the iron is hot. You can't control who your opponents are as a head coach, but you beat the teams when you can beat them. And if you go back to back beating Georgia and then Vanderbilt, great. Sounds awesome.
Yep.
My point is, I don't see Alabama losing again to Vanderbilt. I just don't see it happening. I don't.
We 2 weeks ago we sat on this episode and kind of gave you a hard time about the Alabama hype, but after seeing the way that they played last week, like I think they're kind of starting to figure themselves out. Moving into this week, there's one matchup for me that is like the most crucial matchup this week. To me, it doesn't look like the most exciting matchups in college. There's the Miami Florida State game going on this weekend. Is there, besides that, or if it's just that one, is there a game that you're keeping your eyes on this weekend in college football?
See, I've gone back and forth on this. Aside from the Alabama Vanderbilt game, I'd like A&M and Mississippi State. I want to see what Mississippi State can do it at A&M, and if State can come into College Station and actually just perform some of the miracles that they've already performed so far this year. I mean, being able to beat Arizona State, I get it, they were in Starkville, but the fact you beat the number 12 team in the country, and they went toe to toe with Tennessee, and both of the games that State has come close to either winning or losing, both happened at home. And so being able to go to that to go to College Station and see kind of how Mississippi State responds. Mississippi State, I mean, Texas A&M's been pretty dominant at home. I mean, outside of that Auburn game, which there were so many back calls in that game. I mean, every the entire officiating crew should have been fired after the football game. Auburn absolutely should have won that game. They have plenty of chances to win that game. Honestly, I think even if the calls went Auburn's way, Auburn still loses because it's Auburn football.
Mm-hmm.
But aside from the first two games of the season against San Antonio and Utah State, you know, there've been some close games. They lost. They beat Notre Dame by 1. That was in South Bend, and then they're at home again. They have that nail biter against Auburn, which Auburn very much could have won that game. I wouldn't be surprised if Mississippi State puts another notch in their belt. I wouldn't be surprised if there's another, top 25 win there. And I know A&M's ranked in the top 10 right now.
They're sixth
But-
right now.
But the way Mississippi State's been playing, I would not be surprised if it's one of those games where we're like, whoa, what just happened? What just happened here?
That kind of leads into what I was going to bring up on my side. On the complete opposite side, I feel like Texas A&M is like not getting too much attention considering the fact that they're ranked sixth in college football right now. I haven't
think
heard.
A&M's not getting that much attention because they're A&M. They always find a way to screw themselves. It
Sure,
seems like A&M's just cursed. But the
But
way
they're
Marcel Reed's been
no,
playing,
they're
I mean, and Le'Veon Moss is just carrying the rock like nobody's business. And it's just it's I could see A&M absolutely winning this football game. I can see them taking control of the narrative, saying, "Hey, that game against Auburn, the week before against in the game before against Notre Dame, those are all outliers. We're back. We're a complete football team." But is there something to be said that when A&M plays a quality opponent, they kind of fall apart a little bit? And I think that's what this week is going to answer, which is why I wouldn't be
sure.
surprised at all if Mississippi State goes in there and beats them.
I mean, I guess that would settle that argument because Mississippi State's not ranked, or there's not really anything to prove that it should be like or there's nothing that tells me that it should be a watch game, a dangerous game for Texas A&M. If they continue to play the way that been playing, they've been playing close games. I guess is the concern is that they've been playing close games and barely winning. They beat Auburn by 6. They beat Notre Dame by 1 point, and then I guess you could say they rolled over Utah State. If it's a close game, or even if they lose, or if it's even a close game against Mississippi State, then I would say okay, the hype behind Mississippi or behind Texas A&M and the rank, how high they had them ranked, was too high, and there was too much hype behind them without the attention they were getting. Now, if they go and roll Mississippi State, then I'll say, okay, we need to start giving Texas A&M some credit and giving them their proper accolades for how they're playing these games. But I guess we'll have to see that this should be a defining game. And we're in week 5, week 6.
Yeah.
So this should be a defining game for really most teams as far as what their season is going to look like. Because at this point there's not really that many more games for them to play. So this should be the stamp of game for them.
The one thing A&M has in their favor is this doesn't seem like a trap game because next week they play Florida at home.
Mm-hmm.
So there's really not that, that kind of just like, dichotomy of we have a game today, but whoa, what about next week? So in Mississippi State's kind of not Mississippi State, A&M is, in that mindset where, okay, look, we can just focus on this game, not have to be too concerned about what happens next week. It's not a big matchup on paper, at least. This is the biggest matchup they have on paper until they play LSU in 3 weeks. And they go to Baton Rouge for that. And then they follow that up by going to Missouri. So if there was ever a trap game for A&M, it would be the one in Baton Rouge before they go play Bo Pribolo. And that and that fantastic running game of Missouri. But this week, I'm not saying A&M's going to lose. I'm saying if they do, it could be because, you know, maybe there's something Mississippi State found out against A&M's last 2 games, the last 3 weeks against Notre Dame, and then against Auburn.
Mm-hmm. Like I said, I think it's a good point to be assessing where we are in college football, because I think this is where a lot of teams start falling off. If you start losing a game now, early losses you can make up for in college football. If you start losing games now and you expect to make the playoffs, this is where it's going to start hitting you really hard as far as making your way back to be able to be in those top 12 teams. So there's going to be a lot to watch for as far as the quality of the wins and the opponents and who you have on your schedule and how well you beat them or how close you are if you do lose. It will definitely be like the turning point for college football as a whole. Let's move on to the other football league that is going on right now.
Yes, let's do it.
Professional National Football League. We are 4 weeks into the season. We have 2 undefeated teams. We have the Buffalo Bills and Philadelphia. We'll start by asking you this. Are you surprised by either one of these teams being 4-0 right now, JB?
No, but for different reasons. Buffalo, because they've taken advantage of a weak division, and they really have the opportunity and time to not just figure themselves out. Take these steps. Let's get these wrinkles out. Let's kind of figure out. I mean, really, the only real test they had was at home against Baltimore opening weekend. That's the only test they've had, and I wouldn't say they passed it with flying colors, but they definitely earned that win that weekend. So there's that, and then you have Philly, who is who's just you know winning football games by sheer intelligence. They're just they're an intelligent football team.
Or luck.
I mean, I don't know. I wouldn't say luck. I mean, look, you play, you open a season at home against Dallas. You win that football game. It was a close game, but of course, Philly doesn't have a pass rush, just like Dallas doesn't have a pass rush. And let's not forget, Dak Gate, where Dak spit at Jalen Carter first. Let's just all forget that happened. That was a real thing that took place. And then they go into Kansas City. They play the anemic Chief offense.
Yeah.
Philly, in the Chiefs defense did what it could, but I don't think Philly was really trying that hard. Their biggest kind of struggle was against the Rams, where they were down by 2 touchdowns at halftime.
Yeah.
And then Nick Sirianni is, he's the king at adjustment. And, he looks at how LA played that first half and says, hey, Jalen, just throw it to A.J. Brown every other play in the second half, and we'll be fine. So the Eagles, and then, of course, what was it against the Buccaneers?
Yep.
Where they tricked them with the tush push and then ran it to the outside. So, look, that's what I'm saying. Creativity. They're a creative team. Nick Sirianni's he's proving to be really good at adjusting at halftime to get his team back on board. Because you watched that first half against the Rams, it looked like the Eagles had no chance.
They looked in trouble.
The Rams owned that football game. They come out of halftime. Eagles just light it up.
Yeah.
And then the cherry on top with returning the blocked field goal.
Yeah,
so,
that's where I have to stop you and say it has to be luck. Well, there's a level of luck that has to work for you to win the game that way, because they were set up to lose that game. But considering how many block kicks and weird special teams plays we have seen this year, I guess I could give a little bit of a caveat saying, okay, special teams are developing and it takes skill to do special teams plays. I think against the Buccaneers, they ended up blocking a punt or a field goal again. So the special teams aspect is an aspect they have to take into consideration. My concern is that they are relying on that kind of, again, my word, luck, to be able to come back and win those games. There is a level of concern for me seeing them play.
What is that Frank Sinatra says? Luck be a lady tonight. So it's luck. Okay, if it's luck, it's fine. Look, it's on their side. It's not like they have William H Macy walking around being a cooler there. Maria Bello's just throwing him off. Maybe the Eagles are Maria Bello throwing the cooler off his funk, and then there you go. And then the Eagles are just going to run rampant in the casino. I know you probably don't understand that reference. It's from a movie called The Cooler. It's an incredible underground movie. You absolutely need to watch it. But and then, by the way, Cam Schlitter, 5 shutout innings so far against the Red Sox.
Yes.
4-0 Yankees. But yeah, it was, that's why I say, like, the Eagles and Bills 4-0 undefeated, but for 2 different reasons.
Mhm.
The Bills have, like I said, they have the luxury of a really bad division.
Really bad.
And outside the Patriots look like a legit football team. But then with the schedule too, they played the Saints. I can sit there and say, "Oh, the Saints had that number." Not really. I don't think the Bills are really sweating that game at all. I wasn't sweating it as a Saints fan. I wasn't sitting there saying, "Oh, they're going to chance." No, I'm not an idiot. I've watched football long enough. I know how these things work. Sean McDermott has always gotten the Bills to a point where they allow the game to come to them, and then they figure out what to do there and then what exactly they need to do. Okay, whatever. But the Bills, the Eagles, of course, undefeated, and of course the 2 teams I said would meet in the Super Bowl at the end of the season. Let's keep it going through the playoffs. Let's make Papa JB right in saying Buffalo's going to beat Philly. Let's give Jalen the MVP. He's absolutely earned it so far.
No.
He's absolutely. Oh, you're going to say Dak
He
Prescott?
threw 0 passing yards in the second half against Tampa. That is not MVP quality.
That's how good he is. He doesn't have to throw passing yards to win.
That's not how we.
That's how talented he is. He doesn't need to. You know how good I am? I don't have to throw a single pass. I'm incredible.
That's why you don't get the MVP. That's point blank how you end up losing the MVP.
You win the MVP.
What I wanted to do when we talked about the NFL at this point, and like I said early on, we're about a quarter of the season in. If you divide it, it's never adds up to a quarter exactly, but for the sakes of this argument, we're at the quarter mark of the NFL season, and we have a handful of teams in both conferences that are 3-1. I already asked you about
the good cop, bad cop me with these teams.
Well, we can go good cop, bad cop, but I want to ask you, pretenders or contenders as of right now for the teams that are 3-1.
Okay, give me them.
Okay, so we'll start with the AFC, which has 5 teams 3-1.
Yes.
We have the LA Chargers, the Pittsburgh Steelers, the Indianapolis Colts, and the Jacksonville Jaguars. Do you want to go good cop, bad cop on any one of those teams? Do you feel so confident?
Chargers, Colts, and Jaguars?
Pittsburgh, Indianapolis Colts, Jacksonville Jaguars. Those are all the teams in the AFC that are 3-1 right now.
Yeah, I'm gonna absolutely say, contender. Wait for it. For the Colts, I've said this in the preseason. I said that if Daniel Jones was the starting quarterback of the Indianapolis Colts, the Colts would not only make the playoffs, they would in fact win the AFC South. This team is absolutely stacked, and they have scored 123 points already in this season. That is 3rd best behind the. What's that?
And more importantly, they've punted, I think, 3 times at this point.
That's 4th best behind Detroit, Baltimore, and Buffalo. So, and they have a 40-point scoring differential. This team is primed. They are ready to go. They are hungry. This is a roster that Ballard has worked hard at constructing. The only thing holding them back was the quarterback. It's the most important position in football, and they found the guy. I said in the preseason, do not forget that Daniel Jones, Danny Dimes himself, trademarked, led the Giants to a playoff game with
A win.
Saquon Barkley as his running back. Who does he have as his running back now? Not Saquon, but Jonathan Taylor, the guy who's third in the league in rushing yards the last 4 years. Since the last 4 years, Jonathan Taylor is no scrub.
No.
This offensive line is not a scrub. This defense is not a scrub.
Their front
It
seven
is
crazy.
like if there is a way to get to this team, it is the defense, absolutely. But as long as you have Daniel Jones behind center, under center, and Jonathan Taylor behind him in the single back, this is a team to be reckoned with.
Yeah,
And thankfully, like Buffalo, a little unlike Buffalo, this is a challenging division, which leads me to Jacksonville. Jacksonville, they're an intender. I don't know if they're a contender or a pretender. The reason why I'm giving Jacksonville their flowers, that defense is incredible.
Yes.
That defense is so good. There is nothing. They surpassed, like last week, like last year they had 9 total turnovers as defense. They surpassed that in week 4. They have 11 or 12 now. Like it's an incredible defense. I don't know what they're drinking in the water in Duval, but feed them more of it. Which also leads me to my next point with Jacksonville. Travis Hunter needs to be exclusively a cornerback.
Yeah, he's
Do
not
not start him
very
at
much
wide
on
receiver
offense.
anymore. Let him focus on one position. One position. Let him be a lockdown corner and see how much that defense transforms even more. You want to ride your strong suit. You want to be able to ride whatever it is that's carrying you to your 3-1 record. And it's absolutely the defense. It ain't exactly Trevor Lawrence. It ain't Travis Etienne. Okay? It is that defense.
Yeah,
That
I have to put a huge pump the brakes on the Jacksonville Jaguars because I remember a day in time, I want to say it was 2014, 2015 when Blaine Gabbert was their was it Blaine Gabbert? Their quarterback, and they had this stellar defense and they made it to the AFC Championship against Tom Brady's Patriots. And as much as we can say defense wins you championships, your defense only can carry you so far whenever your offense is doing everything it can to pull you back from winning games. I've been on this bandwagon for the entirety of our podcast existence.
That was 2018.
Okay, thank you. 2018. I have been the entire time against Trevor Lawrence as a stellar quarterback in the NFL. And I want to say it was against the Texans. He did everything he could to lose them that game, and the defense ended up helping him or helping the Jaguars win that game. As much as stellar as that defense is, I have to pump the brakes on the fact that you are putting so much pressure on that defense to carry your team because that offense looks like it has no business winning you games. If you ever come across a good team that is going to keep up with you offensively, like that defense is not going to be able to hold up enough for your offense to keep up with the opponent. That is my weary with the Jacksonville Jaguars. I like the fact that you said they are contenders or whatever weird word. Contenders. There you go. I like the fact that you said that because there is a level of confidence that I could see behind the way that team is rolling. But man, that offense, Trevor Lawrence, I don't believe in. Everything about that offense as a whole just tells me there's going to be a couple games, a couple decisive games during the regular season that is going to come down to their offense. And it's just I don't trust that Trevor Lawrence can lead a game-winning drive. They can't do a offensive drive where they just control the clock. There's just so much uncertainty with that team offensively that I just can't get myself to really fully buy into them. And the that's the biggest sticking point for me. There's just so much. They're like a 99% efficiency on the defensive side, and they're like a 10% efficiency on the offensive side. It's so polarizing that if you meet in the middle, they might be
Yeah.
bound to finish mediocrely, like 9-8.
Yeah. You know, I would call um, the Steelers contenders as well. I don't trust that defense. Really, Aaron Rodgers is playing at a really high level right now,
Mm-hmm.
and as high as you can for a 43-year-old quarterback, coming off a devastating leg injury 2 years ago.
Yeah,
But uh, I don't know what's going on with this defense. This defense is not the steel curtain that I am familiar with. Uh,
which
they
is
have
weird
given
to
up
say about
98
Pittsburgh.
points.
Usually
98
Pittsburgh,
points in four
yeah,
games.
yeah.
That is a lot of points. That's an incredibly ton of points,
Mm-hmm.
to put it scientifically. Like it's just, it's insane. And the fact that the Steelers are 3-1, having a -2 point differential, is, all the more testament to just the will of this team. But hats off to Aaron Rodgers for actually being a leader on this squad, for being the one that is hell bent on getting them to not only make the playoffs, but win this division, especially now with Lamar out for 2 to 3 weeks. And
Yeah,
then the one team you have nipping at your heels are the Bengals, who have no quarterback, and the Browns, who somehow miraculously beat the Packers. I don't understand. I don't understand this league this year. This league makes no sense to me whatsoever.
right.
None. Zilskis.
Mm-hmm.
And then the Chargers, they are contenders.
Losing to
This
the Giants, though. Let's just come on.
Okay. All right. Let's just calm down about that. Okay. All right. The I understand that people are like, oh, well, they lost to the Giants. I get it. They were in the Meadowlands. Jackson Dart was starting for the first time, and it was, look, maybe there's, look, let me look at the Giants defense. Let me take a look.
Their defense hasn't been that good.
The Giants only have given up 101 points, so they're pretty solid.
Yeah,
No, look, that's just one of those games, like when the Browns beat the Packers.
yes,
Like, and
true.
and, and, and that's why I brought it up. Like, it's a weird season.
It
It's
is.
a weird, you're gonna lose football games that you absolutely should not lose at all. And it's just one of those weird things. I'm gonna chalk it up to LA being on the road, playing an early game. They're from California, playing an early game on the East Coast, which is super early for them
Like
on the
5
West
o'clock
Coast.
in the morning on the West
Yeah,
Coast.
it's like 3 in the morning when they're playing in New Jersey. So it's just one of those weird things, jet lag,
Yeah,
whatever. It's real, it's a real thing. But I absolutely think the Chargers are contenders. This is a team that has absolutely found their stride, especially in the receiving game. Uh, uh, you have Lad McConkey there, and then I'm spacing on his freaking name. I
for
can't.
who?
Who's the? I can't even think of his name. Who's
Mission?
who's the name? Who's the receiver for them
Oh,
that was with the Bears last year and came back?
with the Bears?
Who is it?
I don't know who you're talking about. I have no idea.
Oh
I
my
can't.
goodness, who is
Oh,
it? Keenan
Keenan
Allen.
Allen. Yes,
Oh my
Keenan
goodness, I
Allen.
couldn't remember his name for the life of me. Keenan Allen has
I forgot he
absolutely.
was with the Bears.
He was with the Bears last year. Yeah, that's how bad Caleb Williams was. They couldn't even win with him. So, uh, there's a special connection. You got Keenan Allen, you got Quentin Johnston, you got Lad McConkey. All the question marks we had about the Charger receiving core going into the season have seemingly been quieted. I feel like they have a solid number one and solid number twos in that offense, which is fantastic for them.
True.
So, but I'd say the Chargers and the Colts are contenders, and the Steelers and the Jaguars are intenders. I don't think they're pretenders. I think they're intenders.
Okay. Well, let's move on to the NFC because I am preparing a segment for you. We have, when it comes to the 3-1 teams, we have the San Francisco 49ers, Detroit, Tampa Bay, Seattle, and the LA Rams, all at 3-1. I have a feeling I fully have a complete understanding of where you are with 1, 2, 3, 4 of these teams. So we are going to trigger an impromptu good cop, bad cop for the last team.
Let's do
So
it.
let's set the good cop, bad cop episode today. Whoop, 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 whoop. All right. So I have a feeling I fully understand where you stand with the Rams, the Seahawks, Tampa Bay, and Detroit as 3-1 teams.
Yes.
So the good cop, bad cop segment of today's episode is going to revolve around the San Francisco 49ers. JB, I am fully prepared to take the complete opposite of whatever you have to say today when it comes to the San Francisco 49ers. So take it away. What is your stance on the San Francisco 49ers being 3-1?
Intenders. I'm not fully sold on them, and I get that. Mac Jones. Wasn't it Mac Jones that was the quarterback 2 weeks ago? Wasn't
Yep,
he?
and this
Yeah,
week
and then Brock
potentially.
Purdy came back against
Yep.
Seattle.
Yep.
They beat Seattle in Seattle, which was a great win. I'll be more sold on the Niners if they beat the Rams. If they can beat the Rams tonight in LA, I'll be sold on San Francisco. The
So
reason why I'm
are
not
you
going to
trying to be a good cop or a bad cop with the 49ers right now being 3-1?
I'm a good cop on them being 3-1.
Okay.
I'm a good cop.
Okay. If it comes to being a bad cop for the 49ers, I have to say they are getting a lot of lucky breaks with the way that they're winning games. They have an unreasonable amount of injuries plaguing them across the board. There's always a team that, like, for one reason or another just can't get rid of the injury bug that hits them. The 49ers seem to be that team this year. Sure, they're 3-1, but this is not sustainable when it comes to like longevity and how healthy they can stay. Eventually, something is going to hit them like a brick wall to bring them back to earth. Right now, as we film this episode, they are up 17-7 against the Rams.
Yeah.
So I might be looking like a fool when I try saying that they're pretenders. But I'm just not convinced with how many injuries they're having. The way that they're winning games, they haven't necessarily been this explosive team. Their defense had a lot of turnovers. Their defense is really not the reason that they're being carried as a team. Their offense is kind of going through mud, for better lack of words. They're very sluggish when it comes to offensive explosiveness, which was supposed to be a good thing for the Niners, their offense being the fact that their offense was supposed to be able to carry them through any game. None of those sides are really matching up right now, and yet they are 3-1. Something is bound to give when it comes to the Niners, and I am not too confident that they will have the pieces in their roster to really rebound from the injury aspect whenever they are in a hole.
Yeah, and that's why I'm saying that if the Niners can beat the Rams tonight, like the Rams themselves have one of the best defenses on paper.
Mm-hmm.
And they haven't really played like it so far this year. But when you look at, and I understand your bad cop take on it, they were a Jawan Johnson catch in the end zone away from losing that football game against the Saints. It took a game-ending field goal from Eddie Pinheiro to beat the Cardinals at
Yeah.
home.
Mm-hmm.
They started off the season great against Seattle, winning in Seattle when Seattle's known for their defense, and that Seattle defense is pretty freaking good. Um, but so I mean, but I'm going to play good cop because again, you don't. It's not like college football where you get a chance to pick your opponents. But in the NFL, you have no chance. None. And the 49ers have taken every opportunity they could to get to 3-1. And good for them. That's great. Now, am I sold on that offense? I'm not. I feel like there's and it looks like maybe they're a little figuring it out against the Rams tonight. But uh I still feel like there's more there, but I'm a good cop on them because they figured out how to win football games so far. And look, you don't get style points for wins in the NFL. You get style points for wins and for losses. Ask
Yeah.
Notre Dame. So you get style points for those. In NFL, you don't get those. There's no rankings. It's just you're in your division, you're in wild card, or you're not, and that's it. And
Yeah.
San Francisco has definitely played their schedule. They've played it well. Their one loss is to a Jaguars team who held them to 21 points, which tells me a little something about the 49er offense is that they scored 21 against Jacksonville in Jacksonville. So, it's not an easy thing to be 3-1 in the NFL. It's not. And uh but unless you're Buffalo and you play the AFC East, it's but it is another thing that if you get on in the season, now that we're a quarter away into the season, when you and now you're in LA, you're playing the Rams right now, you're up 17-7 midway through the third quarter. I think that says a lot about your football team and about how well you're coached. And it seems like maybe, just maybe, Kyle Shanahan's starting to learn how to be a better game manager
Oh, we'll
and
see.
not so much just put the ball on the shoulders of the quarterback. I've seen a lot more Christian McCaffrey. I've seen a lot more Brian Robinson in these games. I've seen a lot more running attack in the second half. Maybe Shanahan's starting to figure it out. Maybe Kyle Shanahan, we started the episode at the top talking about a guy who can't escape his dad's shadow. Maybe Kyle Shanahan's like, maybe I shouldn't escape my dad's shadow. Maybe I should lean on the run game. Maybe that's my calling card. Maybe I'm so blessed with running backs, I should not try to just put everything on the shoulders of my quarterback. Maybe that's what's happening. I don't know. But either way, if you're a 49er fan, if you're a fan of football, you like seeing this type of competent football, which is why I'm officially a good cop for the 49ers right now.
See, what I have to say is they better, looking at their year or the season ahead of them, they better stack up some wins. They're 3-1 right now. They're winning against the Rams, which, I mean, looking at the way the Eagles and Rams game went last week, 17-7 is really not an unsurmountable lead. But let's just say they lose this game or they win this game. They'll be 4-1. They better rack up some wins in the next month to make sure that they're in a good position to hit a good stride into the tail end of the season. They have the Rams this weekend, sure.
Yeah.
But next week they play Tampa, which could be a hard game for them to win. But then they play the Falcons, the Texans, the Giants, and then they play the Rams again. If they lose a single one of those games, I'm going to be even more concerned about the 49ers than I am right now.
No, full stop. I'm getting off early. I'm pulling the horn conductor, stop the train immediately. Look, if they lose to the Buccaneers in Tampa Bay, I'm not going to change my tune about the 49ers. It's the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. This is Baker's year to bake. He is look, the Buccaneers are a solid. They're top 2 in my eyes in the NFC. That's right. I'm not including the Lions. It's the Eagles and then the Buccaneers, then the Lions, and then the Niners. The
Wow.
Buccaneers are a really good football team. If the Niners go to Tampa and lose that game, I'm not putting that against them. Especially if they hold on tonight and beat the Rams in LA and they go to Tampa next week and lose, sweating over that. Now, if they lose to the Falcons,
Yeah.
if they lose to the Texans, if they lose to the Giants,
Yeah.
then yeah, I'm gonna have my
Now you
reservations.
see where I'm coming from. There is definitely a level of like, okay, you
Not
better
the
dominate.
not the Buccaneers. Take the Buccaneers name out of your mouth, okay?
Okay.
All right.
I will say that's probably the harder one to say, like, they shouldn't lose. I do believe in the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, but you are 3-1 as an organization when it comes to the 49ers. Like, you are supposed to be dominating teams. They have not dominated a single one of their opponents. They have won close games, which, just like what we were talking about earlier, the Eagles, you find a way to win close games, which behooves you no matter what, because at the end of the day, your record matters, not how you win. But the other 3 teams, I have to say, like, there's no way if it's a close game or if they lose. If they win a close game against the Falcons, the Texans, or the Giants, I'm gonna be hitting the nuclear button for the Niners.
And I'm still not going to do that because you know what? They won. They won the football games. You can't control your schedule. You can't control who gets hot. Who's to say CJ Stroud doesn't figure it out? Who's to say that the Texans don't go on a roll? Who is the Falcons? Let's say maybe the Falcons figure it out. Let's say maybe Michael Penix starts to kind of get on the roll too, and then Jackson Dart. Jackson Dart's the least likely of all 3 of these, but the success of C.J. Stroud in the past, the little success that Michael Penix had last season, I wouldn't put it past them to have, to kind of figure it out beforehand. Cam Schlitter, 7 shutout innings against the Red Sox.
Hell
The
yeah.
rookie, 7 shutout innings. I ranted and raved about Aaron Boone having no feel for the game of baseball and what he was watching. Now, what am I watching? I'm watching a man who has feel for the game. Ride the hot hand. Cam Schlitter is a hot hand. Going back to the 49ers. Look, I don't anticipate the Niners losing any of these games outside of the Buccaneer game. I see them losing in Tampa. I don't think Tampa is going to leave the bad taste in their mouth from Philly, especially when Tampa had every opportunity in the world to come back and beat Philly last Sunday. I thought they absolutely were going to beat them.
They should
They
have beat
shot themselves in the foot several times down the stretch. It's 31-25. That score is not. It is a lot closer than you think it is because Tampa Bay absolutely should have come back and won that game.
Oh yeah, one pass away. They were literally one pass away from winning that game.
Yeah, outside of the Buccaneer game, and they win tonight. I can see San Fran being 7-2 by the time by the time they go back and they play the Rams.
Yeah. Well, now they're 20-7, so it's looking more and more promising for that take. The last team that I want to talk about before we close the episode out, I am not fully convinced on the Seattle Seahawks being 3-1. I'm gonna need you to talk me off the cliff on them because they just seem like they are like scrapping for wins, and they don't seem to be actual contenders. Agree or disagree?
I'm going to disagree with you on that one. Look, I said in the preseason that this NFC West was going to come down to three teams. It was going to come down to Seattle, the Rams, and the Niners. If the Niners were healthy, they have a shot at winning this division. If the Rams defense holds like it did last year, and if Stafford's back holds, the Rams have a chance. If Mike McDonald's defense in Seattle is anything like it was last year, and if Sam Darnold is anything close to what he was in Minnesota last year, then yeah, Seattle's got a chance. I will say this: this offense really isn't. I mean, aside from that Saints game, which I mean, everyone should be scoring 44 points on the Saints defense. And then, of course, the 31 they hung on Pittsburgh. We already talked about Pittsburgh's defense.
Yeah.
But when in the loss to the Niners and the win against Arizona, that is the perfect point I'm making. This is the NFC West. It's any team's division. It's any team's it's any team's division. So it is. I trust Seattle. I think Seattle's going to be just fine. I know they host Tampa Bay this weekend. I think that's going to be a huge litmus test to how this defense actually is. And they haven't given up more than 20 points in any given game this year, which is great if you're an NFL team. That's awesome. So, given how they perform against Baker in the Tampa offense, it's going to go a long way for me in my verdict about this Seattle team. Do I think Seattle's going to win the NFC West? No, I don't. I think, like I said, the West is too stacked against Seattle for them to be able to win it. I'm not saying they can't. I don't think they will. So, but depending on how they show up against Tampa, is going to go really far because after that, they're going to Duval to play that vaunted Jaguars defense. That's going to be a defensive football game. And I think that game right there, I think the Seahawk Jaguar matchup, if you go toe to toe with the defense, I think that's where Seattle has the edge. I think Seattle has the edge offensively. I don't think, I mean, I'm nothing against the Jacksonville offense, but I think there's just a little bit of an edge for for Seattle there, rather. And then after that, they play the Texans, they play the Flailing Commanders, they play the Cardinals, they play the Rams, they play the Titans. These next 2 weeks are going to be really, really, really important for Seattle. If Seattle can get out 1-1, great. But I think it depends on which 1-1. If they can beat Tampa and they somehow just lose to that Jacksonville defense, that's one thing. I will give Seattle a pass. But if they go 1-1 and they lose to Tampa Bay and they beat Jacksonville, that's when I'll kind of be like, I don't know. These are different types of wins.
Quality.
Like I said, you don't get style wins, whatever. You don't get styled losses.
Yeah.
But as a football fan, as a guy who tracks this stuff, that matters to me because that kind of gives me an idea as to who you are as a football team.
That's right. All right, JB, we are about to close our episode out. As we have not touched baseball, I see the sign behind your head, which says, next stop, Milwaukee.
Yes.
Give me your 2-minute closeout segment on the status of the Cubs into this playoffs for Major League Baseball. Take it away.
This Cubs offense absolutely. Actually, let me start over. This Cubs pitching staff did absolutely incredible in this short 3-game series. This is the most stressful series you could face if you're a baseball team, no matter your favorite team or the opponent you're playing. It is all hands on deck all the time. This Cubs pitching staff absolutely stepped up. They gave up a total of 5 runs in the 3-game set, which is incredible. Brad Keller struggled in the 9th inning today. No problem. Andrew Kittredge, who pitched in the first and opened the game 2, was able to come in and to lock it down. no matter the stress that was going on inside of me, this Cubs offense seemed the most alive today than it was throughout the entire series. Now, before I condemn the offense, I'm going to give credit to the Padre bullpen. This Padre bullpen is absolutely electric and unfair that it gets to exist in the game of baseball. Everyone throws 100 miles an hour. And then, of course, every single one of those 100, their best pitch is a slider. Of course it is, because it's against the Cubs, and why wouldn't it be? So I'm going to give a pass on the Cubs offense the last 3 games. They did enough with the back to back homers and a sac fly in game one. They did absolutely nothing in game two, which honestly I'm fine with because they didn't waste a lot of opportunities because you know what? They had no opportunities in game two, and they came to life against Yu Darvish in the first inning today or the second inning. They only got away with 2 runs, but you know what? That's fine. That's okay. They got the homer from Bush in the 8th inning, which is great insurance because Jackson Merrill hit one in the bottom in the top of the ninth. But I'm very much looking forward to the Cubs going to Milwaukee. Milwaukee dominated every team this year except, wait for it, my Cubs. So the Cubs absolutely have the Brewers' number. I'm not saying it's going to be an easy series, but I feel a lot better about going to a 5-game slate than I do against a 3-game slate.
Yeah, I have to say the three game, 5 game mix when it comes to postseason, it is giving me white hairs before I'm ready for them. The 3 game series just you're bound to have a team that is not necessarily at the par level of the rest of the competition, a sneaky team to just steal away a series win compared to a 5 game or 7 game series where the best team really truly does have a chance to win the game. I will be honest, when this matchup came across, I did not expect the Cubs to win this matchup. Something about the Padres in the wild card round, just they always seem to find a way to win. They always end up in the wild card round because the Dodgers are always in their way. But the way that they won this series against the Padres, the Cubs won the series against the Padres, give me some optimism for the way that they're matching up. Now, the way that they play Milwaukee is going to be very telling. I think the best thing for the Cubs is the fact that it's a 5 game series, but it's going to be a very good 5 game series. It's going to be
There's a reason they call Milwaukee Wrigley North.
Yep.
There's a reason why they call it that. And
Yep.
the Cubs have absolutely owned the Brewers, not
Yep.
so much in the standings, but head to head. They have owned the Brewers. And I will say this: it was a shocking turn of events that the Padres didn't make it out. The last ever since this format has been implemented, the Padres made it out of the wild card series. And the one thing I gave the Cubs hitters, the one hope I gave the Cubs was that if they were going to win, it wasn't going to be against this bullpen or San Diego's bullpen. It was going to be against the starters. And that's exactly what happened. Back to back homers against Nick Pivetta in inning number 5 in game one. And then, of course, the 2 runs charged to Darvish in the second inning. And that's all it took in order to win these games. Good on the Cubs. Let's go to Milwaukee starting Saturday. Let's get this closed out. And oh, by the by, Matthew Boyd was warming up in the bullpen to pitch that 9th inning against the Padres, but he is fresh still. He is probably still on tap to start game one against the Brewers. And I got to look at the timetable. I don't know if Cade Horton's going to come off the IL in time, depending on when it was backdated to, in order for him to play in the NLDS. The Cubs have to win the NLDS in order for Cade Horton to flash his brilliance, probably in the NLCS and probably against the Phillies.
I love your confidence. I love your foreshadowing of the future. JB, we're done. Get us out of here. Tell everybody where they can find us, where they can listen, where they can watch.
You can watch and listen to full episodes on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, Amazon, Box Scores and Bourbon. Additional content at BSB Sports 24, TikTok, X, and Instagram. And until next time, stay thirsty.
Cheers, everyone, to everyone but Jerry Jones.